TG Geeks, episode 109, January 30th, 2017. Spiraling to infinity and beyond! Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in somewhat cold Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from, I just saw a clip of the first Alien film, the infamous chest-bursting clip, and after all these years, it still creeps me out. Phoenix, Arizona!
Yes, and welcome. It is kind of cold.
It's cold.
Well, it's cold. It's all relative. It depends on where you live.
Well, yeah, it depends. I mean, for us, this is cold weather.
Cold. Yeah, I had to put a sweatshirt on to walk in the morning. So
yeah,
we got an interview for you, and then in our second segment, we'll talk about some other things. So we're going to get right to that segment. And this time we have with us an author, and we're familiar with this author. We've known him in a previous life, and we're gonna introduce him, and then we'll take off. The author is S.F. Edwards, and he has a new novel that is being re-released. And you want to tell us about that, Sean?
Yes. Thank you, guys. Ben, Keith, and I, and go back to the old Slice of Sci-Fi days.
Yeah. I was about to ask how people might know who you are.
So those folks who actually do remember the old Slice of Sci-Fi, I was better known back then as Sean from Edwards, doing the news from Flight Test Land and all the fun stuff with multiverse news involving Victoria and
all the crazy stuff.
But On Daggers Wings is the first book in the Spiral War military sci-fi space opera series I've written. It was released as of yesterday. That was the 26th of January. And so far it's actually doing really well, and I'm really, really happy.
Well, that's good. That's really good. Now, you previously released it as a self-published, and that's when I read it. What's that, 2 years ago?
About 2 years ago?
Yeah.
About 2 years, yeah.
Yeah. But since then, you've picked up a publisher, I assume, then? Is that what this re-release is all about?
Yeah, basically, I had independently published books 1 and 2. I was getting ready to independently publish book 3. I was waiting on the cover artwork and, the last of the edits and all that kind of stuff. And I was doing some flash fiction contests online through a Facebook group, and I was also doing a lot of reviews of books, movies, short stories, that kind of thing. And I had done a review of a collection of short stories, and I actually reviewed each and every short story.
Oh my Lord!
In the collection, which a lot of people were very thankful for. And then I was approached by one of the authors of it saying, "Hey, thank you for the review. It was very constructive. I have my own publishing imprint, and I have my own publishing house, and would you be interested in doing more reviews?" And I said, "Okay, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that. I like doing reviews. It's a lot of fun." And then he saw, "Oh wait, you're the same guy who won the last flash fiction contest." And I said, "Yes." He's like, "Okay, huh?" And then he looked a little further. So you're a writer as well, and you've got a couple books. And I said, "Yeah, I've got this series." He's like, well, do you, and Paul's like, do you want to take a look? And would you mind if I took a look? And I said, yeah. And, I figured, hey, publisher, he wants to look at it, I'll send him a friggin' book,
Exactly.
He looked at it, was very impressed with what he saw. He's like, yeah, it's a little rough. There are some editing things that needed to be fixed, mostly just little things that as soon as I saw them from the editor, I wanted to bang my head against the wall repeatedly.
Yeah, I mean, it was not, there were some, editing things, but for the most part, you can get past that to the story.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really, I enjoyed the story. The first book, I didn't get to read the second book, but I did get to read the first book, and I thought it was an enjoyable story. And I kind of would liken it to, it's more, I don't want to say it's young adult science fiction, but young adults can certainly find a lot of interesting things to read about, but it's more geared as an adult science fiction. And I thought that was great that you could write so that it keeps my interest as well as somebody that's a little younger than me.
Yeah, I kind of, when I rewrote the book years ago, I went more for what they're calling now the new adult market, which is, between your young adult and your, old adult. They come up.
I resent that.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think what it is, it's fiction that works on multiple levels,
right.
Like so many other books that are out there. It's like, yes, Harry Potter is meant for kids, but as an adult, you can read it and see some of the nuances that a kid wouldn't read.
Right, exactly.
And wouldn't see, just like with movies and that kind of thing. But yeah, I sent the book to Paul to review, and he quite enjoyed it. He sent it through the other owner of the publisher and of the publication house, and he enjoyed it. And in a couple of weeks, I had a contract and reviewed it with a couple of other authors and friends.
Far out.
Actually had Mike Stackpole review it.
Oh, cool.
For me. Mm-hmm. He gave me some advice on it.
Oh, cool.
And he's like, yeah, this is actually a pretty good contract, especially for a small house. And I'm actually the premier author of their new Space Dock imprint as a result.
Very nice. So that's really nice.
I'm thrilled, and I'm moving forward. And if the numbers keep up the way they are, I will be really, really thrilled. And they will be releasing the first 3 books. The plan is this year, cool. Or into early next year, and following on with the rest of the series.
Cool.
Thereafter.
I have to go buy another copy of it. So
no kidding. So let's talk about the story for anybody who is not familiar or has not read the first book yet, or in the second book. What can you tell them about what the story is all about?
Well, On Daggers Wings is actually a combination of the original On Daggers Wings and the Book Zero novelette. I always get those two confused. Prequel on the cusp. So it starts out, and you're following a man named, Jard.
Hello. Who are my characters?
Yes, you're following a character named Jard, who is a post-battle forensic engineer. Fancy way of saying he's the guy who picks through space wrecks to figure out what happened.
Right.
So he's CSI in space.
Yeah, basically. He's picking through the wreck of a ship that was destroyed, an alien ship that was involved in a first contact that went wrong. Like the blurb on the book, the back of the book says, it was a mistake. This wasn't supposed to happen. And he gets caught up in all the politics of these two galactic governments coming head to head, and the beginning of what becomes a 200-year-long war. The book then picks up basically 200 years later, and it follows our main character of Shan Blazervant, who is basically we see him be orphaned.
Right.
And then as he progresses into the academy to become an officer, enter the Special Operations Force, and get his wings, and just everything that's involved with that. So that's the basic story, as you're following him through his first year or first Anura at the academy, and the strains that puts on the relationships with his friends, the strains that puts on new relationship he's forming, and the fact that this isn't the life he thought it was going to be, to an extent of he's having competition from within his own team. He's seeing enemies or antagonists outside of his team.
Right.
And then there's the constant threat of getting cut from the program, and which is, very stressful, and the threat of the enemy still out there.
Exactly.
So
now, one of the things I think he has a lot of hero worship for his father. So and the service. So that plays into his angst, if you will, having read the book, and because he was orphaned at a young age, a relatively young age, and his father was he was a captain, or was he an admiral? I don't remember.
His grandfather is the admiral. His father was a ship's engineer.
Right. Oh, ship's engineer. That's right. And his father, and then his grandfather, obviously. So
this is interesting. I'm hearing what sounds like a lot of very, very nice details. So I'm curious, when first approaching this story and getting ready to write it, how far developed did you have this universe that you were going to be playing in and that you're going to be creating for all of us? Very,
very detailed. I've actually been developing this universe and this story since the, don't judge me, early 90s. And
you're such a child.
I remember the early 90s.
Yes.
When I was 40.
It's something I've been developing for a very long time.
Yeah.
And as I developed my writing skill, as I tried to make it as realistic as possible, as I learned more about the world and the universe around us to make it as real and feel real as possible, so that by the time I wrote what is this version of it, and there was many earlier drafts and versions, that if the one that's out there does see the light of day, I will pay the person all the money to get rid of it. It's kind of like some of the early drafts of Star Wars. If you've read them and gone, oh my God, thank God this was not what we got.
Right. Well, I enjoyed your writing. You're very descriptive, and I am one of these almost visual people. When I read, I want to see the world that's being inhabited, and you do a really good job with that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I thank you for that. That's always one of the things I've always tried to do, is describe in such a way that I don't put in so much detail that it's overdone.
Right.
But at the same time, you get enough detail that the person's own mind can fill it in. I mean, There's authors that are very minimalist and authors that want to describe every detail and thread on a person's jacket.
Yeah, that's info dump, and I find that to be a bit of a put-off. So in terms of, so you've now described the universe. In fact, if you just a little bit a moment ago, you mentioned about, as you're understanding the universe we live in, were you trying to go for something that's kind of light science fiction, or were you initially approaching this as sort of a hard sci-fi?
It very much began as light sci-fi.
It's pretty hard science fiction.
What it began as.
Yeah, it's pretty hard
science fiction. But as I progressed through my education and I saw the things that I liked more, I wanted to give it more of a hard sci-fi feel.
Right.
So it's honestly what I kind of call Jello sci-fi.
That's interesting.
It's hard, but it's flexible.
Light.
Yeah.
I like that.
But you have drawn on a lot of your experience being in the service, and primarily in the flight end of the service, shall we say, and everything that you have done. You can tell that's what has informed this novel.
That was going to be my next question.
The mechanics and all of the things, to the point of when they are doing their test flights, all of the really specific things that are, I really appreciated that. That was, and I could say, yeah, this is somebody that's flown before.
And that's one of the things, like, I have a lot of other pilot friends, and one of them was writing a book of, basically, it was a fictionalized version of his memoirs as a pilot.
Right.
And it was what I will call pilot porn, in that he's describing a takeoff and getting down to every single switch he has to flip during engine prep and getting the aircraft up and running, and just, he's a very, very detail-oriented person, so he got into this just level of nitty-grittiness that I'm like, buddy, they don't need the microscope view.
Right. Well, you give just enough on some, without giving anything away. You provide enough information so that he is informed about, oh, wow, now I knew why we were doing that, and I knew why we learned that, or why I did this or this and that and the other, like I said, without giving too much away.
Well,
if you know what I'm saying.
It's one of the things I like to do is when I introduce a concept, like a takeoff, and I'll describe that in more detail, and then later I'm just like, and they took off.
Exactly.
You know, because you don't need that level of detail every time.
No, unless something different happens.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your characters then. I'm always fascinated by this when I talk to different authors in terms of how they start to flesh their characters out. In your case, for example, well, not for example, but I'm wondering, when you were developing each of these personalities, how fully formed were they? Did you find yourself actually changing direction with some of these characters as the story was going, as you were writing it?
Oh, yes, definitely. As I was first developing the story, really, there were only about 3 or 4 characters who actually had any personality. And they were based loosely or in large part on people I knew. The rest of the team was just, okay, this is this individual, this is this individual. And they had 0 personality at that point.
Right.
And as I developed their personalities and I ran and I bounced ideas off of other people, they would say things like, there's the character of Chris, and I described her character to somebody, and they're like, oh, she sounds like a really interesting character. And I'm like,
does she?
Oh.
Really?
Oh,
she.
wow.
That works. So, I basically what had originally in my mind been a male character turned into a female character. And then other characters went through different shifts. There were characters that were originally human, Onulian, who became alien characters.
Right.
The other alien characters who started out as alien, they evolved more. They became more than just their alienness. They became something more than just that. A friend of mine who was an early reader of it, he absolutely loves the character of Beichard. And he's, even though Beichard is kind of, I would say, a secondary character, he is very fleshed out and just, he loves the character. He's like, I want more of this character. And he actually was working on some artwork for me for the 3rd book. And he's like, I want to make Beichard very prominent on the 3rd book. I'm like, good, go. I want him prominent on the 3rd
cool.
book. So,
I'm going to have to go back and read it again.
The character definitely evolved and changed over time. And sometimes just for reasons of the story. The story needs the character to have a certain trait or a certain whatever. So you have to go back in the writing and say, okay, is this consistent with what we've seen before, and change things necessary as appropriate,
right,
to make that happen. Because you don't want somebody to suddenly say, oh, well, yes, I've always had this ability, or I've always been like this. It's like, well, no, you
haven't.
You haven't,
Yeah.
Would you consider your stories to be more plot-driven or more character-driven, or an equal balance of both?
There is a balance between the two in that, in particular, this book, while the characters are going through their academy training and that's what they are focused on, that is what they are focused on. So in that way, that is their character driving the story.
Right. But the eventual story informs their characters or their lives of those characters.
Right. And then it's not really a Deus Ex in that, suddenly something happens to force them into a situation. It's I build up that something is coming after them that they have no clue about.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which in war, it's in life, suddenly you get sideswiped by something going, wait, where did that come from? And you have to react and move forward with it. You can't just sit there and like, well, now I have to sit back and figure out. It's like, no, you have to go and do your thing. This is the way it is. Use your training, use what you know, and succeed if you can, die if you have to, but, move forward with what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But while the story does push them in certain directions, I very much try and make it as character-driven as possible so that when something happens, it's in character.
Right.
Without giving away too many spoilers, Blazer, who is the main character, he's not a perfect character. He's not a perfect person. He makes mistakes, and he makes a big one about a third of the way into the book. But the mistake is very much in character. He's doing something that he would do, because you hate it when in a story you see a character make a mistake that makes no sense for who they are.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it really, and that informs the rest of his training, in essence.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and he becomes a better person, a better pilot, a better everything, because he made that mistake, and he just full bore head on into that mistake. There you go.
Yeah. He owned up to his mistake, and that's one of the things that when I really was working on the rewrite of this book, my first attempt at writing, and which is still sitting collecting dust, and I every once in a while dust it off and like, I want to work on this a little bit today, was very much, it was the prophetic, the chosen one type story. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten sick of those stories, because in a lot of ways, those are the characters who always fail up. It doesn't matter what they do. Prophecy has said that they will be the savior. They will be the person who comes out on top. And so there's never any reason for character growth in that way.
Right.
And I wanted to go to a different take on that and say, these are people and aliens, and however you want to put it. These are people who are exceptional because they have worked hard to become exceptional.
Right.
And even though they are exceptional because they've worked hard at it, they still have failings, they still have flaws, they still make mistakes and have to push through it. And especially while they're at the academy in the books, they're learning those mistakes so that hopefully they won't make them in the field. And once they get to the field, they'll make different mistakes because, that's life.
Right.
But they learn that they have to, how do you move forward through these things? How do you recover from this failure, because there's just too many stories where it's like, oh, they're the chosen one. Well,
right. Okay, so I'm the chosen one. I can't fail.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, where's the interest in that? Exactly.
So let me ask you this question: is this only a 3-book series, or is there
potential for more?
Are you going to conclude the story at 3, or is there potential for more?
The books are actually planned out to 10 books.
Okay.
It didn't initially start out as 10 books, but it grew into 10 books as I developed everything. The first 3 books are what I refer to as the Academy cycle.
Okay.
And that's their time in the Academy. Now, while I've had some folks who have helped me edit and beta read who've complained about, it's like, oh, just get them out there. I'm like, there's an important reason why I'm spending so much time on their training.
Right.
Now, mind you, the first 3 books were originally supposed to be 1 book. Then they expanded into 2, and then the first book again got too long, and I split it up into another 2 books, and I looked at things and I said, okay, I'm going to switch things and shuffle things and make 3 books out of this.
And then the universe got bigger.
My editor, I sent her the spreadsheet of like, this is how things changed. And she responded like, that's actually very interesting how you did this, and it makes a lot of sense. She's like, I can't imagine what you had to do to fix some of these things and change them in the order that they occurred in. I'm like, that's one of your jobs as an editor, hopefully, is to find where I missed things.
Right. Well, and then just, I would imagine, in the telling of the story and the growth of the characters, it made the universe much bigger, and there was so much more that could happen.
It really did, and I think the story is better for it in a lot of ways, in that when it was a 2-book thing, let's just say the characters had some more crutches that were helping them up and moving them along that I removed by changing it into 3 books, and some people who have read them have said, I can see you love your characters, but I also see that you just hate them. You just like torturing them. I'm like, that's how growth happens.
And that's how life happens. Yeah. For the most part. Yeah. So we have alluded to your background. So why don't you tell us what your background, or tell our listeners what your background is, so that they can understand why you've written sort of what you've written here.
My formal education is in aerospace engineering, and after graduation from college, I was in ROTC, but I unfortunately medicaled out. I was not able to serve due to a medical condition that just was really annoying and troublesome. And at the time, it really didn't give me much of a problem, and it has more as I've gotten older. That's just the way it is. But after that, when I got out of college, I immediately went to work for the Navy. I was an in-service engineering agent, and basically that's a fancy way of saying I was the Maytag repairman of missile launchers. Okay. I went out and certified missile launchers, helped in installation, repair, replacement. I was the guy one of the guys that when a missile launcher broke, they called us and we went out wherever wherever the launcher was, on whatever ship it was, anywhere in the world.
Wow.
Which did lead to some really cool stuff, because the launchers were mostly on aircraft carriers, and me being an airplane junkie, that was awesome to have to fly out to aircraft carriers, sometimes on things that went really, really fast.
And stopped really, really fast.
Yeah, we weren't going really, really fast, but it could have. And then after that, after 2-3 years there, I went to go work at Edwards Air Force Base as a flight test engineer. I was there for 10 years, flying to, conducting flight tests, mostly from a control room, because while I didn't think that thing that medicaled me out would have an effect, it did. So I was not allowed to fly on the planes, and I ended up just running things from a control room, which was fine, but it was awesome to see the development of all this flight test. And that's where News from Flight Test Land came from, back when it was back when that was going on. And then 2 years ago, we moved up to the Pacific Northwest, up near Seattle, and I now work for the FAA doing certifications, and mostly having to do with night vision system integrations, continued operational safety on airliners, and I'm going to be expanding out into other synthetic vision systems for aircraft, which are becoming much more popular. And anybody who's read my books, anybody who's read the book understands my obsession with synthetic vision systems.
Right.
Well, explain synthetic vision systems for people, because that could be a term that a lot of people don't know.
Very simply, a synthetic vision system, as we function it now, is either a helmet or a display, and sometimes a heads-up display or a console display, that gives the pilots an artificial view of the world around them.
Aha.
And that is something that when flying into, say, fog or bad weather, it gives the pilots a better view of what they're flying into, because I'm sure you guys have flown a lot.
Oh, yes.
I know that as passengers. And have you ever landed at an airport and it's been just totally socked in, foggy, and you're like, how did the pilots see? Well, I'll tell you, they didn't.
Right. Exactly.
They were working on navigational beacons and just known flight paths to land correctly under the advice of air traffic control to get them where they needed to land. But a synthetic vision system would actually allow them to see through the fog and see the runway, see the landing, and they could actually just, visually land the aircraft. Right. And that's a technology that's in development, and it's becoming, everybody wants it, because it's just, wow, if we can do this, it'd be like flying a flight simulator.
Oh, yeah. That's fascinating. So you have the first book that is just released.
Re-released
now. And then the second book is, I know it's done, but when is that?
This is one of the things about, having a publisher now. They control that.
They control that, yeah. You don't know.
You're on a schedule now.
It has been edited. I will be receiving the edit here shortly. We've just been focusing on the release of book 1.
Cool.
And the response from the editor after she read it was, "Where's book 3?
Very good.
I need to finish this," because she was very excited of where I left the story at that point and wanted to see where it went from there.
So tell us where exactly the name, where it can be found, etc. It's by S.F. Edwards, and that's S as in Sean, and then F as in from, and then Edwards.
Wow, I never put that together before. Snark.
And it is called On Daggers Wings.
The first
On
book.
Daggers Wings is book 1 of the Spiral War.
Spiral War, yes. And then where can that be found? Where is the optimal place that you want people to purchase that?
The optimal place to go for it right now is basically through Amazon. We hopefully we'll be getting into physical bookstores here not too much longer, but it is an ebook exclusive at this time, and it is best to try and find it on Amazon.
Okay. Sounds like the boys in the background there.
Yeah, somebody's
That's
getting
okay.
in trouble.
No worries. So on Amazon, is it available other places as well?
Right now it is strictly Amazon.
Strictly Amazon. Okay.
All right. Well, that's really cool. I mean, obviously, when you get ready for the next book to come out, we'll want to talk to you again. And then for book 3, we'll want to talk to you again, and so on, because we like to do that with our author friends. So in the meantime, do you have a presence on the intertubes, be it, the different forms of social media? How can people learn more about what S.F. Edwards is doing and your future works?
There is a number of places. There is my SF Edwards Facebook page, the Spiral War Facebook page, the Spiral War webpage, spiralwar.com, the Space Dock forums, which are accessible through spiralwar.com, which I am basically using now as a weekly blog.
Cool.
In one of the blog posts I just put up was what I called The Long Road to Spiral War. And it's explaining the whole history of how this thing started up till now.
Mm-hmm.
And since it is a forum, people can respond and question and ask questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm also on Goodreads under SF Edwards, so I will answer questions there if people feel free to ask them. And Twitter, I'm SF Edwards 26.
26?
Because SF Edwards is already taken, and 26 is actually my old tail number.
Okay.
26 is kind of a big number for me. 13 and 26 are big numbers for me. I like them. So you tend to see those cropping up every once in a while.
I just had this vision of there are 25 SF Edwards before you? How rubbish is that?
Yeah.
I guess there's a race car driver named Sean Edwards, so that
cool.
was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, it's SF Edwards 26, but I am accessible on all those forms of social media, and I look forward to it, and I will answer questions. The best place to ask questions about Spiral War would either be the Space Dock forums, accessible through spiralwar.com, or the Spiral War Facebook page.
Very nice.
well,
I update those fairly regularly with news and updates and my designs and all that kind of thing of what's going on with the books.
Cool. I look forward to reading it again.
Absolutely.
I have to read it again because it's been a while, and I really enjoyed it whenever I read it the first time. So I'll have to take a look at it. And thank you, Sean, for being with us.
Yes.
S.F. Edwards, author of On Daggers Wings, available on Amazon.com.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
And here's a few selected birthdays for January 30th through February the 5th, 2017. January 30th, Gene Hackman.
I feel like I'm going insane.
Yes. If anybody knows what that's from.
Oh, God bless if you do.
Yeah. Dick Martin.
Of Rowan and Martin.
Rowan and Martin Laugh-In. Yes. Melons.
Yes.
That was,
Does anybody know that reference?
yeah, that was Joanne Worley. Also on January 30th, Phil Collins and David Wayne. January 30th, 31st, that is, Justin Timberlake, and that's just for you, Jeannie Koch. Nolan Ryan, Carol Channing, Mario Lanza, Thomas Merton, who was a philosopher, and Franz Schubert. February 1st, Bill Mooney. Danger Will Robinson.
Danger Will Robinson, yes.
And Terry Jones and Clark Gable.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
February 2nd, Brent Spiner and Ina Garten, who is famous for saying, "You should use this special Vermont butter, but it's okay, Land O'Lakes will work fine." or the butter at the grocery store will work fine. February 3rd, Warwick Davis, Nathan Lane, Norman Rockwell in 1894, Gertrude Stein in 1874.
We're going really backwards in time here.
Felix Mendelssohn, 1809. And we wouldn't be reading, for the most part, without Johannes Gutenberg, who was born in 1500. And there's still some of those Gutenberg Bibles floating out there.
No kidding.
And if anybody knows
what
that
that's
reference
about.
is from,
God
please
bless
let
you.
us know. Yeah. February 4th, Phil Ehart.
Of one of my favorite bands of all time, it's Kansas, and we're going to be seeing him in a couple of months. Woo!
Yay. Also on February 4th, Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Oh, this is someone that he's a hero of yours in many ways.
Oh, my gosh. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was... It's interesting that we just had the Holocaust Remembrance Day, and his birthday is on February 4th.
I know.
He was a Nazi or a dissident during World War II and was actually hanged. He was in a concentration camp and was hanged 3 weeks before they liberated that camp that he was staying at.
But I think what really sets him apart was sort of his approach to religion, life, etc.
Yeah, his cost of discipleship, and the first line is, "Cheap grace is it's the decay of our current belief system," and he's calls for what's the word I'm looking for? Discipleship and costly grace, I guess it was.
Yeah.
So he was quite the interesting character.
Yes.
Also on February 4th, Rosa Parks. February 5th, Christopher Guest and H.R. Geiger. Interesting.
Yeah. I just happened to watch that clip of Alien earlier, and it's Geiger's birthday. How weird is that?
Yeah, also on February 5th, Henry Hank Aaron. He's 82.
Wow.
Baseball Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And that is it for the birthdays this time.
Once they were a podcast. Hello and welcome to Casual Mode, the podcast for geeks of all trades and masters of none. Then, they went dormant. But then, he returned. But he didn't return alone. Chibi, let's do this. Casual Mode, now the channel for geeks of all trades and masters of none. This is Pokemon Fan Theories. This is Fun 5e Builds, another casual vlog. Tabletop RPGs, Pokemon Talk, and a whole bunch of other random What can I say? I'm ever so slightly lazy. Search Casual Mode on YouTube, Casual Mode Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and Shadowbird712 on Twitter. Until next time, casual fanatics. Keep it casual, y'all.
Go give a listen to our friend Jeremy over at Casual Mode. He'll be glad you did. And now,
It's time.
it's time for some more listener feedback.
Yeah, slowly whittling away at the mountain of feedback that came in while we were gone. And one of the stories that we ran at the beginning of this year was that there is an attempt to remake the movie Dune again.
Hodorowski's Dune?
Oh, I would die for Hodorowski's Dune. I want that movie made so badly. And if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, we did an interview with Steven Scarlatta, who was the producer of that film, the documentary. Check it out. It's insane. A director named Denis Villeneuve, who he helmed the recently released sci-fi film Arrival and is working on the finally upcoming Blade Runner sequel, Blade Runner 2049. He's looking, actually, Legendary Studios is looking at using him to do yet another version of Dune.
Interesting.
Yeah, apparently he said it's been a long-standing dream of mine to adapt Dune, but it's a long process to get the rights, and at the time he didn't think he was going to succeed, but now it looks like he's finally got it, and we've got that story on the website. Check it out. The link will be in the show notes. And we got a response from one of our favorite sci-fi authors. That's Dr. Christy Hartman. And she simply said, "Oh, please make this happen. Dune deserves a grand film." I'm wondering if this is one of those movies that can actually be made. Made properly. That's the thing.
Well, I don't know.
I mean,
only if you make it in Jodorowsky's way.
It's got to be Jodorowsky's way. I really.
It's going to be a 32-hour epic film.
But I really think Jodorowsky's. And this is going to be weird because we've had the David Lynch / Alan Smithy version.
Yeah.
And then we had the version that was on Sci-fi. And I'm beginning to think maybe Jodorowsky's vision of the film really is the only one that can be done.
Yep.
Huge. Well, it's massive and it's perverse, but I think it's the only one that can do it. And then not long after that, we ran a story about how Jerry Bruckheimer is going to be dipping his toe back into the sci-fi genre with a movie called Origin. Yes, this caused quite the kerfuffle.
Yeah.
Again, check out the links in the show notes. This is something that he had pitched to Paramount, so that's what that is. We got a number of responses, the first of which came from your very sister.
My sister. My favorite sister.
Your favorite sister, yes. Lynn, she said, "Is this from the same people that did Origin Beyond the Impact that you interviewed a year or so ago?" And our response was, no, this is something entirely different, not them. She said, she followed with, "I was hoping it was the same people and that had been picked up by the quote-unquote big studios and would be getting a major boost." Well, trust me, if that ever happened, Jeff would be on it. Well, Jeff will be the first to. He would let us know. I think he'd let us know privately before the announcement could then officially be made. But yeah, we would be really hyping that one to the hills. And Jeff Patton, who was the producer of Origin Beyond the Impact, would be like doing backflips and all sorts of gymnastics in the air with pure delight. Instead, he had this to say: "Wow. ... Please say it isn't so. ... Please ... Someone ... Anyone ... Just lie to me then. ... Fade out."
Yeah. Well, Jeff is kind of got the corner on Origin Beyond the Impact, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it created quite the little you were on a business trip.
Yep.
And he was texting you, and luckily I was working from home that day, so he calls me up, and he's just completely beschmeckled by all this. He was just really upset over this story, and so it'd be interesting to see where this goes from there. And then on something more positive, we ran a story about a book called The Forever War that was written by Joe Haldeman. It's an allegorical sci-fi novel, and now it looks like it's going to be becoming a movie. And right now, it's been picked up by Warner Brothers, and they're looking at Channing Tatum to play the lead, and the screenwriter John Spates, who did Doctor Strange, as well as Prometheus and the recently released movie Passengers, looks like he's going to be adapting this film as well. And again, check the link out on our show notes for this story if you want to know more about Forever War. So we got some feedback from very good friend of the show, Tom Allred Gulbertson, and he wrote, "Intriguing. I bought the book today. Looks like a great read." Okay. Then another longtime friend from another lifetime ago, Dillo in Berlin, also known as Thelonious Sweetleaf. He wrote one of my favorite books, but Hollyweird F's, if you know what I mean, SF movies up so badly and so often that I have mixed feelings about the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're kind of right on that, especially speaking about what happened to Frank Herbert's Dune and all the nightmare that came out of that. So you might have something there. And then lastly, we're back to M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's Split. Now, before I go any further on this, I just saw a story this morning. Split was #1 for the weekend again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it came in at 26 million.
Wow. I just didn't like it.
I'm sorry, I can't care for it either. I saw a review that was by fellow critics, Noah Richman from Slice and his critic partner, and they kind of took a different approach from it, but essentially ended up saying the same thing. They liked the movie until they got to the end. The ending was so awful bad that it ruined the movie.
The first third is a decent movie.
I'm good up to the first third, and then from the first third to the last 5 minutes, I had myself scratching my head, thinking, what is going on here? And then the
only reason that I didn't fall asleep was James McAvoy's performance.
Yes, exactly, and that is universal. Everybody's saying that McAvoy was absolutely brilliant in this film.
Yep.
So anyway, if you want to know more about my review, go to the show notes for this episode. The link will be there. Listen to our last episode where Keith and I talked about it at greater length. And we did get some feedback from family, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
First from your nephew's wife, Heather.
Our niece, yes.
Heather Hill, she wrote, I'm glad you reviewed this one. I don't typically watch scary movies, but the previews for this one caught my attention. I love a good storyline, so I'll probably skip this one. And then we got something from your other niece, Miss Summers, Diane Sellers. She wrote, the trailer looks so good for this. I'm sad it isn't as wonderful as it could have been. Still might go to see it just the way he portrays so many characters. So are we seeing a universal theme going on here? The trailer looks good. That's what prompted me to want to go see it because I saw a clip of it on Graham Norton when McAvoy was a guest. That's what made me say, oh, I really want to check this out. Everybody's saying that it's James McAvoy that really seems to be selling the flick. So, go see it for him. If you're going to go see this movie, check it out for him and just disregard the rest. And that is our feedback for this week.
That's our feedback. And we want to hear from you, our listeners. If you have something to say and you want to say it about our episodes, about the articles, about anything that we do on our page, you can look us up on Facebook as TG Squared Studios or as TG Geeks Webcast. You can comment on our episodes, articles that we publish. You can even comment on our YouTube episodes or at tggeeks.com, and you could receive a shout-out on a future episode, as the people up above did. You can also call our listener feedback line, and we'll play your comment on air. 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357.
Welcome, curious listeners. This is Jackson Stewart, director of Beyond the Gates. Continue listening to the Two Gay Geeks podcast if you dare.
Can I just say how much I really dig that bumper?
I love it.
I love that bumper so much.
It is one. It's great. It's. I think it was a Pond 5 thing that I bought, and it's called Sci-Fi Moving. So it is actually a sci-fi thing that they, it's kind of for titles or something, Anyway, in our second segment here.
Yes. Now this is something that has I guess more personal significance to you because you're somehow connected to this individual.
Yeah, there was Devette C, who was originally Devette Thomas. Whenever I was growing up, she's from my hometown, and went to high school with her. And she has a animation studio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's called
Excellent.
Running Lady Studios. Hang on one second. And
As Keith brings it up.
Yeah, right. Go get the information here. And she has actually a GoFundMe account right now that she's started up, and they're looking to increase their output from Running Lady Studios. They kind of do some animation, and she is a woman of color and an animation and filmmaker. As the cat
As
makes
a cat
noise
is making noise in the background, yeah.
And they are actually trying to raise some money to buy a new server.
Oh, is that what this
is?
Okay.
That's what it was. So the goal is $4,000. They have a number of different perks that you can receive from that GoFundMe account. But please consider giving them some money.
So
It was just
So what was it precisely that made you want to stand up and give this a push?
well, it just because she is from my hometown. She's a woman of color. She's an independent filmmaker.
There we go, independent filmmaker.
It's all of the above. We really appreciate independent filmmakers and
Because they
independent
make
creators.
they make the greatest content. I mean, really, seriously. I mean, we've been saying this for over a year now. We've been saying this for a couple of years about how awesome independent creators are, whether it be in animation or whether it be writing, filmmaking. It doesn't matter. Independent creators are some of the most ingenious people. And the beautiful thing is that they're not beholden to the machine.
Right.
So they can really make the vision that they see. Yep. And I think this is I think we need to maybe have an interview with Devette at some point in the future.
Yeah, we should do that. And also, you can find her on YouTube as Running Lady Studios. She's got a few videos up there, and we'll have the GoFundMe account information in the show notes. So
awesome!
Stay tuned.
I look forward to seeing.
Please
more.
consider giving supporting
helping them
independent
out.
creators.
Absolutely, help them out because you have no idea what kind of legacy you're helping to build when you do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, and of course I mentioned being beholden to the machine. Well, speaking of probably one of the worst machines out there, and that's Warner Brothers, and by saying that I think I just ruined any possibility of ever getting an interview with anybody from that studio.
Anybody, yeah. Oh
well. Oh boy, man, Warner's is having the worst time with their superhero franchise, and I'm talking the movies, not the television. Television seems to be going really, really good, but their movie division is just hurting left and right. Because now the Flash film, they're going for their third writer now. This time, I mean,
for heaven's sake.
they started off with Seth Graham Smith, and he'd written a film. He was set to direct it. He then later left. He was citing creative differences with the studio heads. Then the studio brought in Rick Famuyiwa. I'm probably pronouncing that one way the heck wrong. Rick Famuyiwa. Thank you. He came on board, and what he was going to be doing would be using Seth Graham Smith's original script, but do his own rewrite of it a little bit. And he ended up leaving. He also stated that there were creative differences. And, of course, again, now the movie has absolutely no director whatsoever. So now they've got Joby Harold, and he's going to be doing what is referred to in the business as a page one rewrite of the script.
My Lord.
That is Hollywood terminology for throw the whole thing out.
Over.
We are starting fresh.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because didn't they have a couple of directors that have left on this?
Yeah,
thing?
they've had two already.
Wow.
Two writers. Now the third writer comes in.
Wasn't it already supposed to be released?
Well, no, it was still a little ways away. But this does not bode well in terms of trying to come up with a cohesive vision for what your movies are going to take. So, wow, I find this I find this really disturbing. I know that a lot of people have been trying to be very optimistic about the Warner's films, and now we're hearing. Now there's also scuttlebutt from insiders and people who've seen advanced clips like the Wonder Woman movie isn't doing too well.
Oh, geez.
That's to borrow a phrase from Arkle, that it's a flaming pile of poo.
Yay.
I mean, I'm very, very worried about this. I mean, I want these movies to succeed because I like good superhero films.
Right.
I mean, I look back to the original Superman the movie and say, you know, that to me is like the archetype for superhero films. I look to Tim Burton's 90s take on Batman, and I loved that movie so much. It had such artistry and was so stylistic. You know, and then you look to the Marvel films, and you know they're doing such a great job at building a universe. I want to get the same thing out of the DC heroes. I mean, these are the heroes I grew up with. These were the heroes I loved. Superman, Batman, Flash. I was crazy about these characters, and I really want Warner's to finally, you know, whatever it is that they're trying to work out, please, guys, work it out.
Yeah.
Because I want to see some really good content. You know, I was very meh about Man of Steel. I was very disappointed with Batman versus Superman. Guys, please don't disappoint me again. Don't disappoint the fans again. Figure out what it is that you need to do. If you need to completely clean house in terms of your overall creative staff, well then do it. Bring in the kind of staff that will have the cohesive vision that you need, like what Kevin Feige is doing for Marvel. Do that. I mean, right now, oh my gosh, the Ben Affleck has gone on to say that there may not be a Batman film because they can't come up with a good script.
Oh, good grief.
Please. What is going on over at Warner's? I mean, I'm very unhappy about this. So, and if you want to read more about this story and some of the other little DC nightmares that are kind of, or Warner Brothers nightmares that are kind of tied into it, check out the notes for this. The note will be in our show notes for this episode. Now, lastly, and this is one of the reasons why I went and looked at the little clip of Alien. I was looking at some of John Hurt's greatest sci-fi roles, and I think it was comicbook.com, rated #1, and this is the very first movie I ever saw him in, Alien. And the reason I bring up John Hurt, well, we just lost him.
Yeah.
And he was 77. He died of pancreatic cancer. I was really bummed.
Yeah.
Really, really bummed by this. There's an article that really talks about his career. It's on our website. No video. It's just text, but it does talk about, I think, how. I mean, the man was a very legitimate actor.
Oh, yeah.
Don't anybody think just because most people know him from genre work, you know, sci-fi, fantasy, don't think that this man was not a serious actor. I mean, this man, he brought his A game to every role he took.
After all, he was knighted. he was John Hurt.
He was definitely, yes, absolutely. He was awarded an Order of the British Empire. The man, he started off in theater, got his break in television in 1975, and then just 1979 broke into the movie Alien, and that's where I think people really began to remember him. And what I loved is also he has a very self-deprecating sense of humor. He reprised his role of Kane in Mel Brooks' Spaceballs. And even does the chest burster scene again, and comes with, you know, he has the greatest gag where after he dies a second time, he says, "Oh no, not again." I mean, that shows what kind of he didn't take himself too seriously. But as actors go, the man, he really owned the screen when he was on there, but he never at the expense of who he was sharing screen time with. And one of my favorite movies, and we just watched this the other night, was Contact.
Yeah.
The Carl Sagan story. And in there he plays S.R. Haddon, who's sort of he kind of strikes me as a blend between Elon Musk and Donald Trump and, oh God, Ted Turner. He's like all these guys, you know, kind of combined. And he only shares screen time with one person, and that's Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
Which I loved. It's nice that he got to really act opposite her because, I mean, it's Jodie Foster, please. She's an Academy Award winner.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking two awesome actors. I mean, if I were Robert Zemeckis directing that scene, I would have just sat back and said, okay, guys, go at it.
Yep.
And just sit back and just watch and enjoy the dialogue. I mean, it is such a joyous scene to watch these two. And Hurt owns the screen, but he never overshadows Jodie Foster.
Yep.
Man, I mean, that's a
just
talent.
It's a great film, and he does a great job in that too.
I mean, is there anything that John Hurt did that really, it doesn't have to be necessarily Haddon, but anything that you really remember him for that just puts a smile on your face?
Oh, well, Ollivander, of course.
Ollivander.
and his voice. He has that distinctive voice that, you can recognize anywhere, and you say, even under all the makeup, and you say, oh my gosh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you recognize his voice instantly.
Absolutely. One movie that a lot of people may not have seen, especially today, and I think it really needs to be revisited, is The Elephant Man, which he got, he was nominated for an Academy Award, and I saw that movie twice. It is unbelievably brilliant. I mean, you've got, oh my word, the cast in that film is brilliant, but the person that he does most of his on-screen work with is Anthony Hopkins. I mean, wow, two giants.
Wow, exactly.
Giants. I mean, these two of the best actors to come out of England. I mean, that's if you really enjoy good acting, if you kind of nerd out on that, watch The Elephant Man. Or watch anything that John Hurt did. He's such a magnificent actor. Whether it's a lighthearted part or a very serious dramatic role, be it sci-fi, fantasy, it doesn't matter. I mean, he left us the most awesome legacy, and I think the one thing that a lot of people will probably remember him for today, he's the only Academy Award nominated actor to ever play the Doctor.
Yes.
And when he got cast as the War Doctor, I think the world kind of stood still for a moment.
Yeah, exactly.
He brought such weight, tragic weight to the character like we've never seen any of the other actors do. The other actors, I mean, they carry the baggage. The later actors, they carry the baggage of what the character has gone through, but they mask it with humor.
Right.
They try to be defensive about it and be carefree in order to not feel overly burdened. But his character, the War Doctor, you could see the weight that he was carrying from this responsibility, this burden of war.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it so beautifully. And to me, I think his performance in The Day of the Doctor is probably one of the finest things in that entire episode. I mean, he was remarkable. Check out his work. Luckily, some of our favorite films star him, so we're always going to remember him. And I think he left such a beautiful legacy that he's going to be remembered for generations to come.
Absolutely. Rest in peace, John Hurt.
Absolutely.
As always, we have some follow-up items. Check out our calendar on our website if you have a birthday or an event, con, film festival, or whatnot. And just a couple of birthdays that I forgot because I didn't look at the website on our calendar. James Laird, a friend of ours.
Oh, yes, from Blue Ribbon Army.
Blue Ribbon Army is on the 30th. Brian Weber,
Arkle,
a.k.a. Arkle, on the February the 1st.
What got you now, Brian? Sorry.
And Gary Lundros on February the 2nd.
Wow.
And as everybody else is aware, we just talked about that, independent creators, please support them, whether they're filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, etc. A lot of stuff that is turned out by independent filmmaker or independent creators that is absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
If you see a crowdfunding campaign for any of them, go ahead and support it. It usually, for as little as $1, you can get involved, and you might be part of something big.
Absolutely.
Please consider supporting independent creators. Phoenix Comic-Con, May 25th through the 28th, 2017. It's back on Memorial Day. Hooray.
Woo!
Tickets and hotel booking information are available now on phoenixcomiccon.com. Check it out. Verde Valley Comic Expo, April 1st, 2017. We're still waiting for a few more details on that, but it is on April the 1st. And check it out. You can probably find it on Facebook,
Yeah.
I think.
I would imagine there.
Yep.
Special props go to Doctor Who Talking Who on Twitter. They publish the Doctor Who Fancast Guide that republishes many of our articles. They even did some from earlier this week. Thank you, thank you. You can find Doctor Who Talking Who on Twitter. Their handle is @TalkingWho. There is also someone on Twitter. His name is the Social Justice Scald, and he puts out something. Oh, I recognize this name. The Arkle Times Post Dispatch News. Yes, this is our good friend Brian Weber, also known as Arkle. And he carries our stories from time to time, too. If you want to read that, find Social Justice Scald on Twitter. His handle is @Arkle. Brian also has the Incorrect Star Trek Voyager quotes on Tumblr. Check them out. They are a hoot. And as always, I mean, another one of our greater champions has been Sci-Fi Obsession. They've been really, it's like almost everything we publish, they share. Thank you. And they can be found, Sci-Fi Obsession can be found on Facebook at facebook.com/sci-fi-ob. That is SCIFIOB.
And we want to give a shout out to The Lucky Show, the twins, Sasha and Dagmar.
We love them.
We love them. And they can be found on Twitter as @LookieShow, and you can catch their YouTube show is The Lookie, and check it out. Really great movie reviews, real short and sweet, about 5 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
And they do great reviews of older films, not just older films, but some newer films too, but really good in-depth reviews of those films in kind of a campy fashion.
Well,
too.
in fact, Lookie just sent us a message. This wasn't a feedback, so that's why I'm not including it. But they did send a message about how they're looking at actually including television shows now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's going to be part of their from like 1950 something to 1975. So
cool.
They're going to be pulling out some jewels. I cannot wait to hear what they have to say.
Yay for Lookie.
Yay for Lookie, absolutely. And, of course, we always have to give a shout-out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, because it is an awesome group. I mean, we're gay, we're geeks. Hey, figure it out. But you don't have to be gay in order to enjoy that group, because it's got some awesome content that's put out there by some awesome people. And their special high impotent that's not the word. He's important, not impotent. There's nothing impotent about this guy. No, he's very important. His name is Jeremiah Reeves. I was trying to say impotate. That's a
potentate.
Potentate. Actually, I was actually combining imperial and potentate to impotate.
I see.
Yes, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Don't try anymore.
No, I'm hurting my brain already. Anyway, Jeremiah, he gave us his blessing for us to share our episodes on the website. So yes, a special shout out to Jeremiah Reeves. The group is facebook.com/group/the-gay-geek, and I think I better stop talking now.
Yep. We want to remind you to occasionally click on our Amazon ads. They're at the bottom of each article that we publish and on the side of the website as widgets. Give a click. You don't have to buy anything. It just shows Amazon. We get some traffic. If you do decide to buy something, use one of our search ads. We'll get a little bit of a kickback, and thank you for your consideration. And lastly, please write us on iTunes. It helps.
More than you can imagine.
And up next week, I don't have a clue. We'll be here.
Oh, we'll be here. We're not quite sure if anybody else will be here, but we'll be here.
We'll figure it out when we get figured out. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for the webcast episode. We'll have several links on the page. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers.